Hello everyone and welcome back to another video, and today is a review video, and as you can see here, this is what we are reviewing. Now, for those of you that have seen a lot of my sketching videos will know I use a lot of charcoal. I like using charcoal because it mixes really well with pastel. Now, for those of you that have not come across the two different types of dark, soft, medium for sketching, you have charcoal and you have graphite, both which are water soluble. However, graphite is a harder mineral and doesn't mix very well with pastels. It tends to be a lot smoother and a lot shinier as well when you start really rubbing it in order to create texture or to kind of smooth and blend it out. It becomes almost shiny. So if you're used to using old style lead pencils for school, then you'll know exactly what I mean by how shiny that grey can be. Now, because of the kind of the hardness of the mineral in it, it just doesn't mix very well with pastel. So if I'm layering charcoal and then layering pastel over the top, the two are very easy to combine, sometimes too easy, but otherwise are relatively easy, whereas the graphite and the charcoal just generally don't want to blend together very well. So I always tend to use a lot more charcoal than I use graphite, and whilst I love graphite, charcoal is a better medium for the rest of the mediums I like to work with. So most of my charcoals, as you've seen, are the classic black, except for my large Derwent XL, which is a tinted charcoal, and it is the Mars Violet. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to splash out and I want to try the rest of the tinted charcoal range to see kind of what you get out of it, what the colour tones are. Now, I tend to find with charcoal that when you blend charcoal out and when you add water, it changes its tone. So the Mars Violet, a lot more of the pink comes out when you blend it down, but when you add water, a lot more of the blue comes out, which is very weird. But that just seems to be how the pigment kind of separates and comes forward, that they've mixed with the charcoal to give it that tint. So I'd love to see how the others react. So let's get started. I've got 6 swatch cards here already pre-named, so including a black one because yes, this tin includes a white charcoal, and I have my trusty background piece of paper which we'll just do a quick light sketch with all the colours to see how it comes out. So as you can see, this is the tin they come in. You can buy them individually, which is what I did with the Mars Violet from Jackson's, but it is nicer and also safer for these guys because they are so soft to keep them in a tin. So it's really nice. The tin that Derwent have got them in has got a lot of padding, as you will see. So on the front, you can see it clearly says Derwent, which is the brand, and pretty well-known brand for most of you. Tinted charcoal XL blocks. Tinted charcoal because they are charcoal mixed with another pigment to tint them. So they still have that base kind of soft grey to black tone, but with a tinted colour mixed in with it. They are really soft, so if you can imagine the softest pastels you've worked with, so things like Blue Earth, Earthberry, some of the Diane Townsend, some of the Terry Ludwig's, just really, really soft pastels. That's kind of what charcoal feels like. You know, it says here on the front, 6 large blocks, which is what's in this tin, 6 colours. Specially formulated blend of soft charcoal tinted with colours in XL format, which is the larger blocks, for broad coverage, bold marks, agile lines and smooth smudging. Agile lines is definitely not something that you will get from these blocks, and I will show you why later. And if we turn the tin over, so you can see that's the side of the tin, tinted charcoal blocks, it gives you the same kind of information in different languages, so I'll read out what it says in GB for you, but here is a closer look. You can zoom in if you want to see it better, but the information is on their website, and it says, and I'm lucky I've got this printed off to the side massively so I can read it out, Derwent Advanced Performance Charcoal. Tinted with a colour for a variety of earthy shades, the large, naturally water-soluble and highly versatile blocks in soft in texture to create smooth smudge effects. Used for broad coverage and expressive marks. Break into pieces or grate into a powder for detail and textures. Each block contains a high volume of formula equivalent to 8 pencils. Now they actually show that in description here. 1 XL block is equivalent to 8 pencils. What it doesn't say is that 8 charcoal pencils or 8 normal pencils, because pigment in a normal pencil usually has a binder and a filler, and therefore there's not as much pigment as what there probably is in a charcoal block. Bear in mind, charcoal itself is a pigment. and then it shows you the colours. Now, one of the things that really annoyed me about this, and I have looked all over this, is it doesn't actually tell me anywhere on this the actual colours. And I know that they're stamped on the blocks, but as you will see, that quickly gets worn off, and therefore you can't see the names anymore. So I did have to go to the website and get the names, because 2 of the blocks are unreadable. I have not used these, by the way, they came like that. So just bear that in mind, that the stamping process, because they are hand stamped, means that they're not always fully pressed in to the block properly, and therefore they're not necessarily clear. So it's a fairly weighty tin because of the weight of the charcoal. They are made in the UK, in Aylesbury. For anybody that's in the UK, you'll probably know where that is, but Buckinghamshire otherwise. So let us open the tin up and see what we've got here. This is one of those tins where it's lovely and secure, but it's a nightmare to get into. So as you can see, first thing to note, this is foam, really solid foam, so that kind of tight insulation packing foam, quite dense foam attached to the lid to help stop the blocks moving up and down. And then there are 4 clips on the side, one there, and 2 on the other side, and that keeps the lid quite securely in place. And as you can see, here are our colours. Obviously, if you're looking at the pictures on the website, they're going to look a lot more vibrant than they actually are in real life. That's because they are charcoal tinted with colour, not the bright, vibrant colours that you see in the photos on the website. Typical. So let's take a look, and we'll bring this closer, and hopefully this camera's going to focus properly on it. So as you can see, some of them are not stamped very clearly and therefore are really hard to see. So I'm going to try and remember what these actually are in order. But if you know your colours, you should know what some of these are. They are earth-toned colours, so it should be fairly obvious. So we should have ochre, sanguine, Mars violet, sepia, forest pine, and white. So let's get a block out so you can have a look. I'll get our ochre out. So this is the size of the block. You know, if I put it in my hand, you can see it's yeah, about the width of my hand. My hands are not particularly small. I don't have a ruler hanging around. Oh, hang on. I have a measuring tape. Shall we see how big these things are? Knew I'd left this thing lying around for a reason. So, trusty measuring tape, and it is 2.5 inches long by about 1 inch, I reckon. Just under 1 inch, so about 2 centimeters square. So yeah, they are pretty chunky. So if you really want to get into some nice expressive mark making, especially on like a bigger scale and you've been, you know, afraid to do so, this is a really good way to get you into it, because you can have a lot of fun with these without really worrying. And because they are water soluble, you can have even more fun with them because you can treat them like watercolors, but we will get into that later. So what I'm going to do is I am going to swatch all of these onto their respective cards. I will do a bit at the top, and then, well, I'll do two lines on each card with a large blob at the top on each, and then one I will blend down with my finger, and the other one I have got water and a paintbrush off to the side here. So we'll have a look. So I want to try and do these in order. I've also painted up one of the cards in black, as you can see, so that we can get a good look at our white. So we want ochre first. This is what happens when you get all these cards. Let's see. I'm going to put all these up here. Forest pine, ochre, Mars violet. Put the tin here. Does it sit in its own lid? Oh, look at that. It sits in its own lid. Well done, Derwent, for thinking about the design there. Really nice when you come across somebody who's actually thought of the design. Right. So I've got a cloth to the side of me because it is charcoal and it's super soft, so it will get very quickly onto my fingers very fast, and I do not want to get it everywhere. So I am just going to create kind of block at the top. And yes, the other problem with using charcoal is that it does create a lot of dust, but I do recommend collecting it because you can rebind it together and reuse it. I, however, am not. So I'm just going to tap it off into the water. So we're going to start with the ochre. As you can see, it's a gorgeous golden yellow toned earth tone. It's just such a gorgeous colour and it's one of my favourites. So I'm going to blend it in place and also blend it down so you can see it better. And as you can see, it blends out super easily and also super smoothly as well. It is such a gorgeous colour. You can see more of the kind of grey tone coming out on here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let's bring it closer a bit. So hopefully you can see that just here, now I'm putting my finger in shadow, just here is kind of slightly more grey. And the more I rub it, the more that moves around. And that is the larger charcoal particles coming out there. Right, let's use some water and we'll see how well this breaks down. Do we get a lot of granulation? Or is it going to stay smooth? What do we think? Ooh, that just melts into that water. Now, hopefully you guys can see this. I might just use the camera and zoom in. Hopefully you can see, but you can see all the particles. Right, now that we've done that, we're going to bring it down. Oh yes, there we go. That's what I thought. See, that's one of the interesting things about adding pigment to charcoal, is that you tend to get some really gorgeous granulation, unintentional. You know, you pay a lot of money for super granulated watercolours. Nah, don't bother. These are cheaper. So let me bring this up so you can see, and it's pretty much almost there, but you can see how granulated this has actually become. Look at that. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I can still kind of move it around with my finger, but you can see the darker brown tones in it, which is basically where the kind of yellow brown pigment has kind of separated slightly from the charcoal, and the charcoal is now sitting as a darker, slightly stained colour, which is why it's coming out as kind of like a dark grey brown, but you can see the particles, and that's absolutely gorgeous. And if you're really into things like super granulating watercolour and creating texture with your pigments when you're painting, this is really good for that. Really, really good. So there is our ochre. Who have we got next? We've got sanguine next. There's another colour I really like. It's kind of like almost a dusky rose. Oh, it's also super crumbly and trying to break into lump, and I didn't want it to do that. So this one must have been slightly damaged, like I said. They are super soft and can be quite susceptible to damage, but I've got my Mars Violet one literally just rattling around in my pencil case with all the rest of my pastels that you'll have seen in my sketching videos and when I'm out and about. And actually, it's not really suffered any damage, but you can see here how much how much of the charcoal has come away as dust. Got hiccups now. Didn't ask for that. Right, let's take a closer look at this. Make sure I've not got any yellow on my fingers. It's already tried to get everywhere. So we'll just blend this in its square first, and then we will blend it down. Down you come. So you guys can see. So it's kind of like a pink brown, I suppose is the best way to call it. I know obviously the colour itself is sanguine, and that is pretty much the colour you'll see. Now again, the more I blend this down, the more the pigment that it's been tinted with blends into the paper, leaving more of the grey charcoal tone on top. So if I bring it closer, you won't be able to see that. So there you go. I have no idea if it's focusing on this or not. Hopefully it is. There we go. Right. Getting it everywhere. Let's get some water on it. I didn't want this video to be too long, but you know what? It's going to be anyway. So, oh, I love this colour. It's just super gorgeous. Ooh, now, I don't know if you can see it. I'm hoping you can see that. I don't really want to pick it up. But when I move this round, can you see the pink tone that's coming out? It's like the super granulations that have got two colours in them. It's got the brown and then it's got this pink underneath, like this rose pink. It's gorgeous. Right, let's bring you down. Before anyone says, I'm not a watercolourist, so I don't really use watercolour very well. So I don't really know what the techniques are, but this is how I do it. Okay, let's lift this up so you guys can see it. It's still moving around a wee bit, but you should be able to see all the particles come out. You can see more of the pink tone up here and the greyer charcoal tone as you wash it out more. Look at that, it's gorgeous. What have we got? Mars Violet is our next one. So this one I am well versed with and have done a lot of work with. I love it because it looks very much like a charcoal colour, but the more you kind of look into it and the more you work with it, the more you kind of texture with it, add water to it, mix it with things, the more the kind of violet pink side, blue sides come out, which is great. Otherwise, it looks suspiciously like a kind of, not a full dark colour tone of charcoal, but close enough. I'm just conscious that this is getting everywhere on my fingers, this one, because it's darker. It is the darkest of this set as well. So there it is. Again, I'm going to mix that and bring it down. Like that. And then we will get our water. I know, I almost love using water more with these than I do actually using them like I use my soft pastels, but they are very good for both, to be fair. Now, this one is going to be unbelievably granulated. I think it's because it's just got slightly more charcoal in the mix. As I bring it down, you can see some of the kind of more blue violet coming out of it. Right, there's that one. Let's pick that up and so you can see it, or at least hopefully you can see it. I can move these over slightly. There we go. So it is sepia next. So this again is another one that's very close to a charcoal colour, but with a slightly kind of olivey green tone to it. I've always visioned sepia as more of a kind of green brown than green, but you might see it slightly more. I don't know is the answer though, because I don't know how well this will or won't come out because I've not done this with these. And I've never used these colours before, so it's always good to know. Trying to keep my fingers clean so I don't get fingerprints everywhere. Drop the dust into the cup. There we go. Right, let's have a look, shall we? See what we get. So I don't know how well it's coming across on camera, but it's almost like a really dark khaki green. Look at that. There we go. And get some water. When they dry, you can see more of the tint colours, especially as they separate. Right, had to slightly change what I was doing because the phone decided to ring and it just ended the video. Which it shouldn't do, but you can pretty much see there the kind of greeny tone colour coming out. I know this one's got a lot of green in it, but it is on more of the blue tone. Now, most of these are all warm tone so far, so this will be the first one that you see that is going to be more of a blue cooler tone. Never understand why most of them end up chipped on the corners, which is really irritating. I always make sure I try and get as much down as possible. I think this is going to be one of my new favourite colours, this one. I love kind of bluey green colours, and that's what this one is. It reminds me of kind of like the spruce and the Scots pine, which are, you know, a fair number of types of trees we have around here. Right, let's blend that down. Let's see, what do we get? Gorgeous blue-green. Not much of the charcoal colour coming through. Blend it down a bit more. Come on, down the page. There we go. I'm not seeing much of the charcoal colour come through, which is good. It does mean it's heavily pigmented with the tint colour though. What do we think? A lot more of the charcoal colour comes out with water, and also slightly more yellowy with the water, which is really weird. I didn't think it would be that yellowy with the water in it, but yeah, look, see? It's got more of a kind of almost slightly foresty green. You can see the particles moving around when I do that. We'll let that dry. If anyone's curious about the Mars tint, the Mars Violet, this is what I was talking about earlier, and I'm hoping you guys can see this, this is really pink, and this is not. Go figure. Right, I cut this off another piece that I was working on, so I actually don't know if this black is water-based or not, so it's going to be interesting to see whether or not we get a grey instead of a white when I add water, but we will see. I don't really like using white charcoal. I have 2 white charcoal pencils, and they are so translucent that they're just pointless. I prefer using harder white pastels like New Pastels or Conte's, or using pastel pencils. So I don't know what this is going to be like or how translucent. It's going to be interesting to see. Ooh, I'm likey. It is, you can see it is slightly transparent. Slightly, actually, it's probably middling. Because you can see the black through it, but, you know, at the end of the day, it is charcoal. I'm a little confused how you tint a charcoal white, because surely charcoal tinted with white would make grey, because a tint is not like the full amount. It's almost like it's white tinted with charcoal. Maybe that's it. Maybe actually Derwent have designed these the other way around. Maybe it's these colours tinted with charcoal and not charcoal tinted with these. I'm pretty sure that it's the other way around, and it's charcoal tinted with a base pigment, and the reason for that is because they are sold and touted as charcoal sticks. So that's my theory anyway. Derwent, if you're listening, you can feel free to correct me, but it doesn't say anywhere in your marketing or your tins which way round the composition is, which is quite important, especially if you're mixing it with other media. Right, so let's blend out and down this white. I wouldn't expect this to go very far, and it hasn't. It's really struggling to spread on the paper. I don't know why, it just... Still, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, and it'd be interesting to try and see. Right, because it's like really solidly on there. Let's add some water and see whether or not I was right about this paper. Oh, good Lord, it's literally disappearing. Well, we'll see in a minute whether it leaves a white stain, because that's the only thing I can really see. I can see the white particles floating around in the water. It's kind of like chalk in some respects, but way, way, way smoother. Right, that one's really hard to tell what I'm doing with, and I would probably suggest not using water with it. Or if you're using water with it to do things like maybe blending out with clouds, because it can give you some really nice tonal crossovers with neighboring colors. So there is the swatch cards, as you can see. You can see that adding water has brought out some really interesting colors. So on the sepia, you can see we've got a little bit more of the yellow, but it's remained quite dark when it's with the water, and you can see more of the yellow coming out of the brown there. It's almost a warmer green, turned to a warmer green than the cooler green that it is without water for the forest pine. It's more pink, dry blended, the Mars Violet, than adding water. Ochre, not really any change, pretty much the same both ways. It is just as dark in water as it is blended out. And sanguine, again, darker with water, even though it's dried. You can see how granulated it is now with the patterning. It's definitely more of a kind of soft grey tone when it's just blended out dry, but a lot more of the kind of darker reddy brown pigment is coming out when it's wet. So you lose a lot more of the pink tones. So I'm going to pop all these up here, because, you know, that's what we like to do, is put them in a really awkward place. Not to help the camera's on a wonk, but that's pretty normal for me as well. And I'm going to move a few things around. So I'm going to dump that there. I'm going to move this annoying pastel painting out of the way. No video for that one, I'm afraid, folks, but there is another floral for you to stare at. I'm going to dump that out of the way. Okay, right. So I'm just making up something now. Just making up a little kind of scene. I'm thinking let's sketch something out, shall we? Let's do fields, hill and distance, tree line. Should we do a front tree line? No, let's do low tree line there. And actually we can do some hedgerowing there, I think. And possibly another tree line here actually would be good. There, just that. Nothing complicated. The interesting thing is I don't really have anything for the sky. So I think what we'll do is I'll use the Mars Violet just to give us a little bit of difference and just some clouds. Now you can use a paintbrush and just pull directly from here, and I think I might do that for this. So I'm just getting a wet paintbrush and applying it to the top of the block, and then look, oh, whoa. Okay, I wasn't expecting it to pick up that much. Oh my gosh. So dark stormy cloud sky. I've got the white though, so maybe this is where we might see some of this white come into action. Just trying to keep it loose by adding plenty of water. Keeping it lighter at the bottom, making sure I'm allowing the pigment to travel wherever it wants. Adding some splats, because why not? It'll just, I don't know. Okay, so that's a lot more stormy than I was planning on making it. Never mind. These things happen. Right, let's see. Now, I want the grasses, the kind of fields bluer further back and more yellow to the front. So let's start with remember, you barely need any of this, and I will be adding water and then going back over the top with charcoal afterwards. So don't panic, people. Right, just do all of it, apart from that. What colour do I want to do the distant hills? Maybe sanguine actually might be really good for the distant hills. I want to kind of use the sepia for the foreground trees and also for the hedges, defining the fields. I know obviously I've lost a lot of that anyway, but I don't mind. Right. I'm going to blend out my fingers first and then add water. It just helps control it slightly more. Okay. And yeah, I know this is not. That's our tree line there. And this is our other tree line. Trying not to go over it, but I'm not too fussed at this point. In theory, it should be lighter in the distance and darker in the foreground. But hey ho. These are quite dark colours, so I'm not really obliged to really think about it too much. I just want to have fun, really take a look at kind of the colour, the tones that you can get with this. And some more splats because it just adds interest. Okay, right. Water. Let's get the sanguine down for the hills. I don't need much. Oh yes, adding charcoal to a wet area and it just kind of spreads. So I'm just conscious of that. Yeah, they're in front of those hills, but the hills are there first, right? Pop you back in there. Paintbrush, which should still have some, should still be fairly wet. Look at the colour. Take some of that off, I think. Just add more water and then take it away. Lovely colour though. A little goes a long way, if you hadn't noticed. How's this doing? You can still see slightly damp where I can put my fingers to it. Right. Do you want some of this a lot more yellow and lighter? So I know I have some here. Filled with the slightly more yellow that are at the forefront. I know this looks a mess at the moment, but it will come together. Trust me. And then I'm going to use some of what I've got here. I'm going to pick it up and then add it here. So this is a bit more yellow, but not as yellow as our foreground. You can see we've got the two colours there. Beautiful. How's this doing? I know this paper is warping because I haven't prepped this for this, so. And of course now I've got fingerprints all over it. That's just not going to work. Why am I doing that with my hand? I don't want to do it with a cloth. Well, we're going over it with the white anyway, so it won't make any difference for the time being. And I know the paper keeps scooting up, so don't worry about it. And what am I looking for? What was sepia? Thinking, am I going mad here? No, I'm just using the corner want this quite dark, remember. Same here. So a distant tree line here. Remember, these blocks are so big you cannot, I know it says on the information that you can get some really agile lines and fine lines. You can't. They're too chunky. However, if you're working on a surface that, say, for example, is 6 foot by 6 foot, then yeah, this probably would look like an agile line. However, on a surface like this, which is probably no more than, I don't know, 8 inches by 8 inches, it's not going to be anything like that. Now, bear in mind, like I said, this will be look a lot darker once I've added some water, but I wanted to kind of blend it down a little first so it doesn't travel too far. And the good thing with this sort of stuff is it really does kind of, you can add so much to it. Like I'm just going to add this. I've picked some of it up on the brush, so I'm going to create a slightly darker hill here in the front with it. You can kind of start to see the kind of landscape coming together. I wasn't looking for anything kind of high quality, just to show what you can do with charcoal and what you can do specifically with tinted charcoal. Now, I tend to use tinted charcoal in partnership with charcoal. I won't be for this exercise though. This is these bush lines. I'm just stealing from here. Just kind of dabbing it down because this is a hedge line. Do I want to put a style in? Yeah, let's put style in there. Blending out and just removing some of that pigment from the paper with the brush and adding it down to this bush line that's down here. First of all, it saves me adding more charcoal so that it's not going everywhere, and then also allows me to make this slowly ever so slightly lighter, because this is the one in the distance and that's the one in the foreground, so we do want that one to be darker. And this one to be lighter. You can see really see the kind of brown tones coming out in that one now. If I want to make it even more dark, I'm just going to grab directly wet from the block, and you can see how dark that is. Just basically using it almost like the Inktense blocks, which are another great tool for doing something similar. Or like watercolour. This kind of tree shape here, because trees often kind of crop up in amongst that. And that gets lighter as it goes off into the distance. This is another one coming across here. Yeah, I've got too much of a line there. I don't know how that's happened. Right, now what I really need this to do is I need it to dry, and then I can add more. Oh, is that, the sky is dry? Yes, sky is dry. Let's do some sky. Let's do some sky. First of all, I've got a putty rubber here. So question is, do I want to add white, or do you want to, as you can see, there's a putty rubber. For those of you that were going to ask that question, how is it for rubbing out? Well, pretty much as you'd expect. I'm just doing things in little circles because it just keeps with the whole cloud. I don't want to do too much. I just want to, oh, still damp in that corner though, because I've just taken up the paper. There we go. Right, shall I try adding some of the white charcoal though? This should give me, well, first of all, let's do it along the base there, because it's lighter at the bottom. It always is with the sky. Lighter at the bottom and lighter coming up. I can see it. I don't know if you guys can though, but I can. Hopefully you guys can see it in the camera. Just blending that out slightly with my finger because it's a bit all over the place. See, this is where the transparency helps because it blends really well in with the sky there. Let's bring some in. You should be able to see that. I'm bringing this in from up here. I didn't really want it that dark, but I forgot how powerful it is when you start pulling it off straight off the blocks. So, well, what do we think? Is that better? I think that's better. Oh, wet bit. I keep forgetting it's wet up there. I don't like this. I feel like I need to come in more here, like that. That bit's just slightly too dark and it's annoying me. There. Is that better? What do we think, people? This is how the white really did kind of work really well there with the sky. How wet is this? It's still damp. This is the thing, is you don't really want to, the problem is if the surface is damp and you're working with the charcoal, first of all, more charcoal pigment will stick to the paper, which can be good, but also can be really bad if you're trying to keep things light and you don't want this massive dark blob of pigment, heavily pigmented in one area. The second thing is that this is Fabriano watercolor paper. I've not gessoed it. I'm literally working straight on this paper. And as you saw up there with my fingers, it can rip with these blocks. Even though these blocks are really soft, it still can rip the paper. So you just have to bear in mind that while it's wet, oh, for God's sake, it can be an issue. See, now I've made an absolute mess of that. I need to fix that before I go anywhere. Add some more of this. This should be really, oh my gosh, yeah, really dark now. It's so good. Random tree. That's not a very good tree. It will disappear, so I wouldn't worry about it. I'm hoping I could make it slightly darker than the bushes, but I think to do that I'd have to use, like for example, the Mars Violet, which isn't necessarily darker. Well, it is, but it's not. But the tone is different, so you'd see more of it. Right. I need this to dry, so I'm going to pause, come back, and then we will continue. Right, this is pretty much dry. So, what do I want to do? Right. First of all, I want to add some more. I don't want to do that. No, let's do the green. I might add a little bit more of the green, but only, first of all, darker around this tree line. And it will spread out, so it won't matter too much. It just needs just that little bit darker around the trees, as you would kind of where you get shadows and things. I'm just sending that down. Bear in mind that it's still lighter in the distance, so we're not trying to do too much. Just adding a little bit more of the sepia block to the tree, just to make it a little darker. Quite like that. And the same here. I want this darker. I also want a little bit darker down here, where we've got, I don't know if you guys, if you've seen enough of my videos, you know I tend to like to make corners dark. I don't know why, but I do. That just gives me a little bit more kind of texture, some shading going on, especially down these corners. These fields after all. Do we want them to be ploughed fields? Oh, we could do, couldn't we? Which one have I picked up? Sepia area. So let's just doing lines. Like that. I'm just basically putting the edge of the block down and pressing, and then just kind of shifting it up and down. So nothing complicated, just I can make sure I can get that in. Also getting this hedge line in. Obviously, the further up it goes, the lighter I want it to be. Just smoothing this out slightly. I did want this to be a kind of more hazy style. Kind of painting. Yeah, I like that. It's given us quite a lot of nice texture to work with. And then, yeah. Reinforcing this, I want to be slightly darker. Now, these distant field, I'm going to very, very lightly kind of create a line across like that. And the same there. Well, I do want that one slightly darker, so yeah, we'll just do it like that. Wanted a tree there. Can't go wrong with a tree. Notice how dark it is where I've wet it versus how dark it is when I'm just putting it on dry. It is completely different. Nowhere near as dark. Oh, kind of messed that line up, didn't I? Yeah. As it kind of gets further away, I wanted it to get a little bit bitty, but kind of messed it up going that way. What are we thinking, guys? Kind of liking it. I think I want to just put a little bit more of this down, just darken the bottom edge and then spread it up. Like that. That looks better. Right. Question is, will this rub out some of the sepia. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, look how effective that is. I can cut right into there and just create some interesting shapes. Because, you know, hedgerows and fields and stuff are never 100%. Also, just that brown blob was annoying me down here in the bottom corner. And you can see the more I rub away, the more the kind of grey tone comes out of it from the charcoal. Right, now let's brighten some of what we're doing here. Remember, foreground is the most saturated and the brightest, so just doing minor yellow along each of these. Thinner line further away, because then it doesn't really go as far. For this, I'm just gonna, it's because the paper's warped, it's not helping, but I just want to kind of get a little bit here and there. And just make that one slightly yellower than that one, so that we've got some sort of difference going on. Like that. And this, just blending up. Don't worry, I want to add more texture, so I'm going to be going over the top of it again. Where are we here? Just because that helps with our texture. And sepia. Oh, keep moving the paper. I keep losing you guys. Huh, yeah, quite like that. Right, add some more green into this, maybe. Not really is the answer. Maybe some green and yellow. So I'll just do a little bit of that. Some of the yellow with it. Oh, wasn't really expecting to make that sort of line, but never mind. I just wanted to kind of give an idea of direction for that field, kind of going up, away. A little bit of yellow in this as well. I just feel like the blue is just coming a little too much through. And this one I will blend. I want this quite smooth. It's kind of receding into the distance like that. Right. Do I want to darken it? Let's use the Mars and just darken some of the bottom areas of these trees. Preferably without adding it to areas that you're not going to do, like I've just done there. Touched it ever so slightly and now it's in somewhere it's not. I don't really want it, but never mind. This is just adding a deeper shadow and colour to these hedgerows. And use the corner ever so lightly. Now, just gives it a little bit more definition at the bottom. So, hopefully you guys have found this really useful. I definitely recommend, if you want to have a go with the bigger charcoal, then definitely buy a single one first. It's so much fun playing with charcoal, so much fun. You can do so much with it. The tinted versions, yeah, okay. You know, when you look at it for colours, for things, it depends on what you're looking at, what you want to do. You know, to create just a random landscape, it's fun. But the colour choice probably isn't what everyone's going to want, like there's no blue. But saying that, that's not what this is for. This set is earthy tones that you can use within a landscape with other colours. And like I said, they pair perfectly with soft pastels. They're really good when used for expressive mark making in huge areas, and then, like I do with my bigger pieces, adding water and really playing with it on the paper, because you get a lot of that granulation that you get from super granulated watercolors. The charcoal itself, because it's so light, loves to float on top of the water, so it will go in places you don't want it, but will create interesting effects because of that. So I really hope that you guys have found this really interesting. If you have any questions about this at all, please feel free to comment below, and I will see you all soon for another video. Remember to thumbs up, kind of hard to do, thumbs up the video and give it a like, and that way it helps the YouTube algorithm put this video out to more like-minded people like you and me and all you other crazies that have joined me and are watching this video and at least have watched it to the very end. Well done you for getting to the end of one of my videos, because most of you just skip sections. Yes, you, I know you're doing it. Anyway, ta-ta for now.